Take back your soul. This is another transmission from Mahadeva here at ThunderWizard.com headquarters, where you find the world's only unified spiritual energy system at ThunderWizard.com. Get ready, because here I come. Hello YouTube, this is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard, and today we are going to ask the question, if aliens were to invade in 2022, what would be their agenda? What would be, how do they think about us? So if you are new to this channel, please check out all of the links here, especially this one here, thunderwizard.com, but also courses.thunderwizard.com, where you can get rune readings, or where you can learn to do the kind of rune readings that I am going to do here today. So let's get right into it here. All right, so is this what I want? That's what I want. Okay, so here's the rune reading that I did earlier today, and I asked the question specifically about these guys. What is going on with these individuals? How do they see us? How do they feel about us? Before I get into that, yes, you have not lost your mind. The Thunder Wizard has gone off the deep end. I really have not been all that interested in aliens, extraterrestrials. I haven't really thought about it all that deeply, found it interesting, but based on what's happened since, for me anyway, since September of 2021, when I really became aware that the world that we lived in is nothing like what I thought it was. And then, of course, I became aware of what has already been going on since, I don't know, a couple of years ago at least. The Pentagon has been feeding information to the mainstream media, saying that unidentified flying objects are in fact of alien origin, and they're real. So when the Pentagon is feeding this kind of information, supposedly leaked, that they confirm, because that's how they make it look like that, they confirm what this whistleblower is showing the world, it really means that they have an agenda to give that information. So the deep state government of the United States wants you to believe that there are in fact extraterrestrials visiting our planet using technology far beyond supposedly what we have. That being the case, with so much evidence out there that something is going on, it just takes a tiny bit of effort. Many of you listening to me have probably experienced it, that there's something going on there, and the only logical conclusion is that there are beings, physical beings like me and you, who have evolved and have had a life on some other planet somewhere in our enormous universe. More than likely, there's probably quite a few. I myself have never had an alien experience to the best of my knowledge, and I don't know what aliens exist and what don't. But these guys supposedly are the ones that are the most seen and the most experienced, and certainly we all recognize them as extraterrestrials. So if they were to invade today, what is their motive? So this is the rune reading I got right here. I took this earlier today. This is a 9-world rune reading. So I honestly don't know if anybody else is doing these exact type of readings, but I'm doing it based on the 9 worlds of the Norse world tree. So for those of you not familiar, the pre-Christian understanding of the cosmos for the indigenous people of northwestern Europe, they believed that this universe consisted of 9 worlds. And each of these 9 worlds are inhabited by different beings. And we live in the center because everything, no matter where you are the center. The universe is infinite, but it doesn't have any boundaries. And so wherever you are, you're the center of it. That's just the way it works. And so from our vantage point here on Earth, we are in fact in the center of these 9 worlds. And these other 8 worlds that surround us, these are worlds that are inhabited by other beings. Now, this 9-world rune reading is actually a snapshot. You can do this for anything. Like you can do it. It works very well if you want to take a look at somebody, an individual. If you want to take a look at them, because it operates with the 9 aspects of your psyche. So before I go any further, this is rune readings. I don't recommend that people use these for major decisions in your life. I've always found them to be very helpful, but it's good to, in my experience, it's good to get a reading from somebody else because they don't have an agenda. But if you try to do readings for yourself all the time, you will influence that reading because you have a psychic agenda on what happens here. So, by the way, if you're new to the channel, this will be a question and answer. So what I'd like for you to do is, if you have a question, to write the word question in all caps, then just in normal script, write your question. If I don't see that, there's a good chance I will pass right by it. It just becomes a noise to me and I have to scroll through it. So, getting back to the reading now, I'm going to interpret this for you here, and we're going to take a look at what is going on with these guys, the GREYS. Do they want to invade the Earth? Will they do so in 2022? I'm asking that question because it is, in my opinion, we are on the verge of a massive shift. And the real question is whether or not we're going to show up in a way that's going to be helpful. There's a lot of signs and indications and predictions that we're about to move into a reality that we have never experienced before. And we've certainly had that the past 2 years. I've seen the world change into something I could never have possibly imagined. So all bets are off after all of that. Anyway, let's take a look at it here. So what we do is we start in the middle. And the middle is, and again, we're asking about the mindset of these guys. The middle is their conscious experience. So my question was, what is their experience of us, their intentions towards us humans? So the center rune is the rune Hagalaj. Hagalaj can be translated as hail, snow or hail, but it actually means to heal, means to make whole. And so their experience of us, their conscious experiences, they seek healing. Now this is interesting because many people who claim to have experienced the GREYS will say that they give them a psychic message of be careful. Be careful of technology. Be careful of destroying the environment. And some people believe, which makes perfect sense to me, that the reason why we started seeing flying saucers in the sky seemingly right around World War II is because we were experimenting with nuclear bombs, and then we dropped a couple of them, and that got attention from all over the universe. Because I didn't know this until I did some research, but found out that many of the scientists involved were worried that if we actually dropped a nuclear bomb and actually exploded it, that it might start a cascade that would end up destroying the whole universe. There are scientists that are worried about the Hadron Collider, the super collider, the same thing, that will create a black hole that will, soak up the universe. So apparently, some of the messages have come back that yes, that when you guys play around with nuclear weapons, you actually start poking holes into the fabric of space-time, which pops up in different places. You drop a bomb in Hiroshima, but 100 light years away, somebody starts seeing a hole poking through their home. So that put us on the map, and so a lot of aliens apparently came looking at us to see what the hell we were doing. And there's no shortage of anecdotal evidence from people who've worked at nuclear sites that UFOs come over and mess around with the electronics, and to let them know that they can turn those things on or off whenever they want. There have been nuclear tests that have gone off. One supposedly was a rocket that was sent to the moon, and they were going to test a nuclear bomb on the moon. And as that thing was flying, some UFO showed up and just threw a couple of lasers at it and destroyed it, and without setting off the nuclear bomb. So there it would make sense that in the center there, their conscious experience of their feelings and attitudes towards us is one of healing. So that's good news. They want to bring healing to us, and again, wholeness, balance, because the word heal means to make whole. Whole, W-H-O-L-E, whole, to make complete. So they're seeking that from us. That's their conscious experience. Next thing we do in the 9-world rune reading is we go up to the top, the center top there, that represents the north, and that is the world called the mist world. It's called the mist world like fog because nothing has been manifested yet. It's the closest thing to the void that we can get to in physical manifestation. It is where ideas and power and understanding are ready to manifest, but they're not completely manifested yet. If you personally were to go into the mist world, you would come apart. You would lose your individuality. So it's not a safe place to go, except if you have Odin as a guide, and we talk about that in other videos. Odin is the only deity in the Norse pantheon who is able to completely, totally die to his ego and yet still hold on to his identity. And so that takes a very special power, and he is the only one of the gods that does that. So he is a guide into the north of the mist world. So what is coming for them in the north, what you look for is on the individual we're talking about, what is coming for them. So what is coming for the GREYS, for these guys, what is coming for them based on this reading is that boundaries. So Thurisaj is the rune there in the north, which has to do with boundaries. Boundaries, physical boundaries, literally physical boundaries that keep you safe. It means emotional boundaries. When you're in a dysfunctional, abusive relationship, it means that on a psychological and emotional level, you don't have boundaries, or your boundaries are being violated, or you're not protecting your boundaries. So for them, this goes with what I just said earlier, which is that it is a threat to their boundaries. If we start blowing up nuclear bombs and playing around with all kinds of other things with our technology, we are potentially bringing danger to them being able to protect themselves. They may also be focused on our boundaries because we're part of a giant community. I have to be honest with you, it became unavoidable to me to accept the idea that there were actual physical beings that were visiting us from other planets. They have their own planet, their own species, their own culture. They're so different from us. The thought of that just completely, I found it to be very frightening. Because even though I'm not a I'm no longer a Christian. I gave up on that when I was, very early in my 20s. And, but the idea that we were the only conscious beings in the universe, as uncomfortable as that was, the idea that there's other beings out there that have far more knowledge than we do and that have been around for a lot longer. Compared to, imagine some of these, because the Earth is actually not very old. There are stars and systems out there that are far older than Earth. And if you can imagine a society that has been in existence for millions, if not billions of years, that makes us basically monkeys. It's like them talking to us is like us trying to have, a deep scientific conversation with our dog. I mean, it just, once you start going past, let's go for a walk, do you want to have some food, go poop outside. Outside of that, there's not a whole lot we can talk about. So, how do they interact with us? We're pretty stupid compared to, what even ourselves another 500,000 or million years from now. Imagine trying to communicate with ourselves. So they are what is coming for them, and what they want to bring into this is safety and boundaries, physical boundaries, probably, maybe emotional and spiritual as well. And then the next rune we look at is in the top right. This is the northeast direction, and this is the realm of the celestial gods, or the world called Asgard, which means the yard of the Os. The Os means, O-S means celestial deities, the gods. And yard, it's not your backyard. It means guard. It actually means fortress. So the original meaning of your backyard was actually your back fortress. So the Osyard is the fortress of the celestial deities. This represents, when you're asking about an individual, this represents their hopes, their dreams, their aspirations for the future. And so here we see in the Northeast that what these guys want for themselves is they want for things to follow the correct path. Because raito means the path of the sun. It literally means to ride. So it means the sun riding in the sky. And the sun always follows the same path. It goes from east to west. Unlike the clouds that will go in any direction that the wind blows them, the sun always goes in the same direction, every day. We slightly move with the seasons, but the sun, from our perspective, of course, we're the one going around the sun, but from our perspective, the sun goes in the same direction. So it means following the true path, following the righteous path, following the correct path. It also has to do with ritual. So ritual, the point of ritual is to make it is a shamanic way. Whenever you do a ritual, you light a candle to this and you offer this and you say this prayer or this mantra. You're following a specific ritual. It's a way of making the universe come together and follow the correct, true path. So that's what they're hoping for. They're hoping that they can help bring about things following the true and accurate path. The next rune that we look at is in the east there. So that's in the middle right. So that is the eastern direction, and that is the realm of the giants. So that's the giant world. So when it comes to an individual, the realm of the giant world has to do with their identity, their ego. So in this reading, we are looking at how these creatures, how they view themselves in terms of their identity when it comes to their involvement with us. So again, we're asking specifically, how do they view us? How do they view planet Earth and human beings? And so in terms of their identity towards us, this is an interesting rune because we have the rune Nauthij. So Nauthiz is literally two sticks rubbing together. It's the rune of called need fire. So need, it also means to feel constricted. So it's when you feel like you can't go anywhere, but it's actually a good rune, because if it were, say, the Perthro rune and it were reversed, then that would mean there was end of story. There's a brick wall here. You cannot go any further. The end of, the destiny, karma. It's over. Nauthiz feels that way. It feels like you've bumped into something that you can't go any further. There's a roadblock, but it's not really a roadblock. It's a detour. And so it means, in terms of their identity towards us, they feel constricted in terms of reaching out to us. But as you know, two sticks rubbing together creates fire. And fire was the invention when humans figured out how to make their own fire. That actually created new technological explosions. If it weren't for us learning how to make fire, we'd still be, we'd still be monkeys. We'd still be, just eating grubs and eating fruit and swinging through trees. There would be nothing for us to accomplish. And when we learned how to not just find fire, but to create it, then we could heat food and cook meat, which allowed our brains to get so much bigger, and we could evolve. It has everything to do with evolution. So what it means is that they're feeling constricted. I'm not going to use the word frustrated because that's a human emotion, but they're feeling constricted. They want to evolve, but at the moment they're sort of at an impasse as to how to reveal themselves to us. And again, I think this has a lot to do with technology, because the Thurisaz rune is a rune of technology. It means massive evolution as a result of some new invention, some new, because the guy who created fire, right, he's rubbing two sticks together, which is the Nauthiz rune. He, before that, was trying to figure out, how the heck can I make fire? I'm freezing here. How can I do this? I've tried everything. Two sticks, and then he just says, I'm going to figure it out. And then they, come up with that whole thing where they do the little bow, and then they do it, and it takes a lot of effort. So somebody spent a lot of time experimenting until they got it just right. And then once they did that, that opened up technology. So I believe that they're figuring out a way that they can share their technology with us in a way that won't, we won't be like a 4-year-old with a machine gun just going around and shooting the place up. So I think that's what's constricting them, is how do they share their technology with us in a way that's constructive for everybody. I think also there's a real difficulty, because the reality of this is, it's not like you're going, well, just give you an example. If you've never looked at it, you can go search for some films that were made in the 1970s. That's actually a very long time ago, except I was alive at that time. So it doesn't feel that long ago to me, but it actually was quite a long time ago. And there's some guys that were going into regions of New Guinea. By the way, if you didn't know, New Guinea, I believe, has the largest number of uncontacted tribes in the world. It's still this huge forested, large island, almost a continent. And, the vast majority of it has been undiscovered, and there's lots of tribes out there that don't even know we exist. And so in the 70s, some guy was going in there, I think he was a French guy, and he was taking a movie camera with him, and sure enough, these guys come out of the forest, and they're total Stone Age people. They have one guy has a stone axe, he has a bow and arrow, that's all that they have. And he's coming up, and him looking at the guy with the camera, he's going up to the camera, and he's about to take the guy's head off. He's so afraid. He doesn't know what he's looking at. He sees this white guy. He's never seen anybody with white skin before. So To him, that was an alien. He was so afraid of this guy. He didn't know if he was a ghost, he didn't know what this guy was. He was just so afraid to touch him. So that's a human seeing another human. Imagine what it's like for those people who've experienced that. I mean, it's an absolute total shock. It just tears your reality apart, especially since they're not human. So we talk. That's how we communicate. They don't talk. Apparently, they are all about sending, pictures through your brain. They use telepathy to communicate, and that is, we don't have the brain power for that. It's very frightening for us. So that also is going to cause them some constriction. How do we communicate with these monkeys without frightening them? You might take that stone axe and hit me over the head with it. So I think that's what's happening here in the East. They want to share their technology with us so they can get us out of doing this ridiculous things we're doing, burning fossil fuels, playing around with nuclear weapons. But we might hurt ourselves and them in the process. And also, there's this gulf of, they don't interact with reality the same way that we do. So there's this problem. It's like us trying to communicate with an ant. How are you going to do it? How do you communicate to that thing? So that's in the East. The next rune we're going clockwise, because that's how energy manifests in the world. It goes in a clockwise fashion. In the southeast there, you see the Gebo rune, and that is in the world of the dwarves. So the dwarves are the magical beings that actually give the gods all of their magical tools. Thor's lightning, Thor's belt, anyway. Everybody's got their special tool, and that comes from these magical beings called the dwarves, who represent life force energy. Represents life force energy that manifests. You use life force energy to intend and manifest your reality. So when you're trying to intend your reality, it's your subconscious mind that uses this energy to try and manifest in the three-dimensional world. And so here, from their perspective, what they're trying to intend is Gebo. Gebo is balance. It means to give, literally, Gebo. So if you see there, you've got two lines going through each other, which represents an equal exchange of energy. Gift giving is, I give you something, you give something back to me. So their intention is to create, on the one hand, generosity, but they're also seeking to have an actual cooperative two-way exchange with us. That is their intent for us. All right, the next rune is in the south, and that is the fire world, and this has to do with one's actions. So in terms of their actions, this is an interesting rune. We have the Fehu rune reversed. So Fehu represents resources. We think of it as money. It actually means cow. Fehu means cow. It's where we get the word fee in English. You charge if somebody wants a service from me, I charge a fee for it. Literally, it means I charge a cow. That means that before our ancestors started using gold, silver, paper, things like that, they actually used cows because cows were real things. You could get milk from them, cheese from them, meat from them, skins. So you wanted something from somebody, that'll be 2 cows. All right, here you go, 2 cows. All right, build my front porch. So this has to do with also energetic support. So supporting somebody with resources. So in terms of their actions, the way I interpret this is that they do not want to interfere. I thought about this when I first became aware that, this has to be a real thing. And again, the thing that strikes me, I think a lot of people, they either worship or demonize. You'll see people will have 2 attitudes about aliens. They'll either say that they are the light beings that are here. They treat them the same way we would treat the elves or, ascended masters or angels. And then you have people that treat them like demons. They're here to deceive us, and these are usually born-again Christian types. But it doesn't have to be. There's a lot of people who just have fear-based nonsense, and they're just afraid of everything that they don't understand. And obviously these beings have far more power than we do, spiritually, technologically, mentally. So that makes people frightened. But I think from their perspective, and this reading seems to show that just like in Star Trek, it's like, we're not supposed to interfere. These beings, these human beings, have to evolve on their own. So we can't give them alien technology. We can't give them spaceships. We can't give them, they have to evolve on their own. And so we're not, we're bound by our code of ethics. We can't be giving them any kind of resources. They have to figure it out by themselves. And again, that adds to the constriction. How do they help? How do they interact and help if they, because that's what we're going to want. It's the first thing we're going to want. And you see this, if I use the same analogy as, modern technologically advanced humans going to uncontacted tribes, the best way to absolutely devastate and destroy that tribe is to start giving them technology. You start giving them even things like, T-shirts, stuff like that. That totally throws off their balance with their immediate environment. And who doesn't want to be more comfortable? But because they haven't, evolved to that point and worked towards it, then they end up being lazy, and then they end up, it ends up just destroying them. It's horrible. And then they end up, addicted to alcohol and all kinds of other stuff, and really messes them up. So I think the same is true with us. If they were to give us their technology, it would destroy us. So that's the Southern Rune, and their action is to not interfere and not to give us any resources. Our job is to learn how to work with the resources that we have. Moving to the southwest, that's the bottom left corner there. This is their unconscious. Now, I don't know the psychology of, how their brains work, if they even have an unconscious mind. Humans definitely have an unconscious mind. Unconscious means that which you are not aware of. Whether they have an unconscious mind or not, this represents the deepest aspect of their mind as associated with the question at hand, which is, how do these beings see us? What is their intentions? What is their agenda towards human beings? So from the deepest level of their being, and even if they did have an unconscious, this rune is right side up, which means that they don't have any unconsciousness about it. They're fully aware of it. So this rune has to do with deep emotion. So this means they have deep feeling for us. Now, I don't believe I'm speaking for aliens. I don't think I can go into their mindset. I don't even know the first thing about them, other than that they're not from here and that they fly around in crafts and that they can think, throw thoughts into your mind. Other than that, I don't know anything about them. But I would imagine what this means is that they see us as part of the universe. If they are spiritual beings, which most people who interact with them, who claim to have interacted with them, say that they are in fact highly spiritual, and that the best way to contact them is actually through meditation. And that what they want is for people to understand that we are all connected spiritually, and that there's even some evidence to say that in multiple lifetimes, humans have been, in another lifetime, you might have been one of these, or this might be who you'll be in your next life. And so they are more aware of that, and they have a strong affinity and lots of love for us, because they see us as part of themselves, just like we're that we're part of the family of conscious beings in the universe. So that's encouraging. And I got to be honest, I didn't know what this reading was going to show. And I made a reading in beginning of 2020 having to do with all the nonsense that's been going on for the past couple of years, which I can't talk about. And I didn't have any suspicions. I didn't see the world anywhere near the way I do now. I just did it out of curiosity. And what came out was it was very nefarious, that there was some very nefarious um, intentions behind the things that are going on, have been going on for the past 2 years. So much so that YouTube actually deleted that video. I can't even tell you what I said because YouTube will delete it. So that was interesting. As time went on, that reading turned out to be accurate, even though I was thinking, this can't be right. Well, I find this interesting because I didn't know what this reading was, and this reading seems very positive about how they view us and what their intentions are. So this especially, if you really want to see the deepest understanding or the deepest reality of somebody, an individual in their thinking, you look at this rune in the bottom left corner. So in terms of how they view us, there's no rune for love, but that would be the closest one. They have deep feeling for us, deep emotional feeling for us. So that's a good thing. All right, so the next rune is going to be the middle left. That is the western direction. This is the home of the Vanir. These are the gods that live in space-time that have to do with things physical like magic, love, fertility, prosperity, comfort, sensuality, happiness, all those things. And so this represents, in the question at hand, represents your relationship to the question. So the rune on the east represents their identity in terms of how they see themselves in connection to us. In the west, which is what we're looking at now, this represents how they relate to us directly. What is their direct relationship with us? And here we have rather concerning rune. We have the Tiwaj rune, but it is reversed. So Tiwaj represents the highest awareness. It also represents, when it's right side up, it represents victory, good luck, completion. Here we have it completely reversed, which means, what does that mean? It means that they either feel like they are failing at their relationship with us, or that in terms of how they relate to us, perhaps there's just not a whole lot to do. There's a lack of consciousness. Maybe they can't relate to us because of our lack of higher consciousness. But this is a disconcerting rune because, I think that they would want very much, based on this reading, they want very much to interact with us. If they could, they would knock on our door, and however the hell they communicate, they would. But they can't. There's a void there. So there's potential failure in terms of that. So we need to, if we want to connect with them, I would say we need to up our game in terms of our awareness. And this has probably a lot to do with what I've been talking about recently in terms of the original purpose of the Egyptian pyramids. I won't get into that in this video, but the reason for the Egyptian pyramids is that the Egyptian pyramids created a energy bubble around the earth that actually brought our awareness to a higher level. And because we left that golden age and we went into eventually what was the dark age, the Kali Yuga, that's why the pyramid just sits there. It's just a big hunk of rock. But it used to be an energy generator that generated a field that went around the whole world. So that may be part of it as well, that there's a failure to to connect with us because we're just not at that level yet. And for them to have, massive open conflict would just be so devastating to most people. I mean, and there are people who work in, deep state and military who, when it became clear to them that this was a reality, like having seen alien, bodies from crashed vehicles or interacted with them in any way, many of their complete religion falls apart and they can't tolerate it. They can't make sense of it and they blow their brains out. So this could be a real problem. In any case, maybe I'm being too negative about it, but that's what I see when I look at the left middle rune, which is how they relate, their relationship, how they give to us. Up in the top left, this is very interesting. So the top left is the northwest, and that is the realm of the elves. So the elves are the ascended masters. The ascended masters are, at least in my perception up to this point, the ascended masters have been human beings who have achieved their enlightenment and they're no longer in the reincarnation process here on Earth. And they act as guides and they are the shining ones. So they are as close to infinity, as close to, quote, God as you can get. And they stay between us, or they stand at the gateway to what would be total infinity. And they look back towards us and they guide us. And if you ever want an answer to any question about difficulties in your life, face the northwest and open up your arms and simply ask for guidance. So, this means that from the perspective of the elves, if we take it that, here's what the elves have to say about the GREYS. They're extremely powerful. That the elves are saying, these guys are powerful. They have a lot of power. They also have a lot of determination. So that's a really interesting placement there. I heard a physicist say about, who doesn't believe in aliens. An astrophysicist was asked about aliens, and he said, if a society were to be so evolved that they could travel light years to get to other planets, the last thing they would want to do is conquer that planet, because in order to be that technologically sophisticated and powerful, they would have long ago gotten past their petty differences with each other, which is violence. And it was a really brilliant thing that he said. He said, when you get to that level, there's just no reason for violence. There's no reason for conquering somebody. At that level, it's you understand science well enough to know that everything is connected and you can't start, that you have to work together. So he said, at that point, it's just a given that their society is going to be a peaceful one. But it also means that because they don't have feelings of violence, greed, fear, competition, that they were able to achieve because of their cooperation and the sheer length of time that they spend in their evolution, they've become extremely powerful. So the reality is that these guys, if they wanted to take over the earth, it would be a non-issue. It would just be, it would be, like me scratching my ear. It would take about that much effort and it would be theirs. They wanted to wipe us out. They could do it in who knows how many different ways. They could just simply beam their third eye at us and, our eyes would bubble out of our sockets. These guys have a tremendous amount of power. But when it's placed there, it means also that they're very spiritually powerful. So to be able to link technology with spirituality. You know, I got to tell you, I'm not going to lie to you. They frighten me. In my little human self, I'm not so full of myself to think that I could experience them and walk away unscathed. I think it would mess with me. And if you've heard me talk about my experience with Bigfoot, who I can tell you from experience is not an ape creature that lives in the woods. Bigfoot is a trans-dimensional being that lives in another dimension, and you experience them and your whole world comes apart. And that's more understandable than beings that live on other planets that can, fry your mind with a thought, or, and apparently their technology is fused with their telepathic, telekinetic abilities. So when they're piloting their craft, it's, their hands are there, and it's their consciousness that goes in and works consciously with the craft itself. That takes a tremendous amount of power on all levels: spiritual, energetic, mental, technological. I mean, these beings are extremely powerful in terms of their relationship to us. So we are like much less evolved creatures. I'm not going to say insects, perhaps, but that's what this reading is indicating. So in terms of their connection to us, the next thing I do is I look to see if there is any reversed runes in threes, and I don't see that. There's actually only 2 reversed runes. There's 1 rune that acts like a reversed rune, but it's actually not. So they don't have a whole lot of conflict when it comes to their thoughts and their agendas towards us. The biggest problem is in terms of they're still trying to figure out how they can best interact with us in terms of their identity and how they can relate to us. That's really the biggest problem that they seem to have. The one at the bottom I don't think is a problem. I think that's just common sense. You don't give you don't give infants machine guns. So that makes common sense. But I think that they are kind of in a place where they really want to figure out a way where they can have a more successful, perhaps a more open interaction with us. And I do think that open interaction is coming very soon, whether we like it or not. And I think that's going to be either because there's some event coming. I'm not quite sure what it is, but it's coming very soon. I believe that. I'm prepared to be wrong about that, but I believe it's true. There's some event that's coming very soon that will force us to evolve massively. And so if we are able to consciously surrender to that and choose to do that, then that will make their job a lot easier, because then we'll be more prepared for that. Because I think open contact is coming soon. And in terms of if we don't pull up our big boy pants and learn how to get our consciousness together, then I think that they will be forced to have a mass landing, what we would experience as an invasion. Because if the elites continue to do what they're doing, and I believe that the elites of our planet, the corporatocracy that is currently running the world, I believe that their plan is to use reverse engineered alien technology to create false spaceships, and then they are going to create a false invasion that will give them even more power over the earth, because we will be so afraid that all country boundaries will cease to exist, and we will be begging for, at least in their mind, they think that's what's going to happen. They're idiots. They think that we're going to come begging them, please run the whole world and save us from these alien invaders. And I believe this past 2 years has been an experiment to see how they can use a false emergency to see how much power they can consolidate. And I don't think things went quite as well as they had hoped. They were quite successful, but not nearly as successful as they need to be to completely control the whole world. So if the elites continue on this path and they're willing to do anything, they'll use any technology they have. They'll use nukes. They'll use, technology to mess with our DNA. They're already doing that. And if I was one of these guys watching that happen, and I'm actually what this reading says, even though that's a frightening looking thing to me, but don't judge a book by its cover. If they're actually very loving spiritual entities, then they may feel that they will have to step in and to protect the innocent from the elites, which would mean they'd have to land, that massive landing of crafts, and then they're gonna and by the way, it would be very easy to shut down the whole world. It would be so easy. All we and we don't even need aliens to do it. All we would need is a sunstorm. There just needs to be an ejection from the sun, which happens all the time. It happens in all directions. It just have to be aligned perfectly towards us, and everything would be lined up, and there'd be a large ejection of plasma, which would bring all kinds of radiation, which wouldn't destroy life on Earth or anything like that, but it would shut down the electrical grid. It would shut down radio, internet, electricity, all communication. Planes would go, the electricity in planes would, so planes would crash everywhere. It would just take that. And they definitely have the ability to do that. They could just knock out the entire world and then just land and say, okay, all right, enough already. They've shown they have the ability to turn off all of our nuclear facilities. So it would be extremely easy for them to do that. So the question is whether or not we are going to evolve and have enough consciousness so that doesn't have to happen, so that we can comfortably and naturally evolve and then get to the place where we can have this interaction with them. Because right now, the communication, I'm looking at this and I find it frustrating, because the communication between us and them is limited to them flying above us, maybe flying by and waving at us, or there are people that get, I don't understand this. I haven't experienced it. Maybe if I experience it, I'll like it. But what people are doing now is they will have these little handheld ham radios, and they will send out some kind of either a radio signal or some kind of request, and a UFO will fly over it, and their radios will start beeping. And it's like, that's cute. Okay, yeah, hi. But it's like, what do I do with that? So what? It's just, for me, I want to have a deeper, more meaningful connection than my radio beeping on and off and clicking on yeah, great. Hi. But for some people, that's just really exciting. And the exciting part is great. Yeah, I can see that there's some, assuming that I was there, I haven't seen this yet, but if I were to say, yeah, I can see that there's some craft over there, and I'm having some intense experience, and maybe I'm getting some sort of vibe from them, but I don't know anything about them. I don't know where they live. What is it like on their home planet? What is it like, a day in the life of one of these guys? What is a day like for them? And how do they, find us? Because, are they sitting on their home planet, 100 light years away, and their radio beeps up. Oh, a human wants to talk. Okay, let's get it. Come on, kids. Let's get in the station wagon. And they get in the station wagon and they hit, warp drive, and then they're here in 5 minutes. And then they fly over us and say, hi. What goes on with them? So it kind of, I find it weird that people don't think past the shiny thing flying in the sky, making their radio go off. That's as far as their mind goes. I'm like, don't you want to know more about, how does somebody who doesn't use language, How do they go through I mean, what kind of communication goes on? What kind of interaction goes on? I mean, they wear little suits. Apparently, they wear little tiny wetsuits. So they actually have clothes that they wear. Does that mean they have like a little closet with a bunch of little tiny wetsuits? You know, black shiny things that they. I mean, you know, do they go to little alien stores and get little alien shoes? You know, I mean, do they need alien, sunscreen? What is the weather like there? Do they have plants? Do they have animals? Do they have pets? I don't know why people don't ask that question. All they want is to see something flying in the sky. And that's it for them. I need a lot more. Now that I know these guys exist and that they're not just, ghosts or spirits or gods or angels, that they're actually physical beings, I'm extremely curious as to, if I could get over my fear, I would like to go on one of their ships. Show me, take me to your house. I want to come to your. How do they eat? Are they vegetarians? Probably. Are they breatharians? Do they just like Superman? Do they just sit in front of the sun and get all their energy from their blue or green or purple sun? So many questions. All right, so there's the rune reading. I find that to be a little bit disturbing, but for the most part, I find it to be a pretty good reading. So if you have any questions, you can write the word question. And also, if you want a rune reading, either from me or one of my certified rune readers, you can go to courses.thunderwizard.com, or you can go to runereadings.thunderwizard.com, and you can have a qualified rune reader give you one of these readings based on whatever question you want. All right, so let us go ahead and let's take a look at the questions here. All right, so looks like we got at least a couple of new people here. All right, so we've got Thundra Staves Rangel. She says, "Good evening, Mahadeva. You should check her out. She is one of my registered. She is one of my certified astrologers. So if you go to Thundra, THUNDRA, .thunderwizard.com, you can take a look at all of the services that she provides. And if you want me to do the same thing for you that I just did for her, go to lockdown, LOCK.thunderwizard.com, and if you learn the course and pass the test, I will give you a site on my website, and I will, if you wave hi during a live stream, I will advertise you, just like I'm about to do again for Vincent. And his website is vincent.thunderwizard.com, and he is also a very good astrologer as well. And both of these astrologers, Thundra and Vincent, have both mastered my style of astrology and then gone beyond it, which is, I absolutely encourage that. So they're each individuals and they're each unique in their own way. But Vincent also has his own other services as well. Gebo the Shaman, you can go to vincent.thunderwizard.com to check him out. All right, somebody, again, some new people. Anyway, I won't bother with those. If you have a question, that's really all I'm interested in. So I'm scrolling past everything that's not a question. Olivia Rackley, question. I am very probably moving to an off-grid home with no electricity soon. Can you teach me spirit fighting via spirit travel if I do? So you've asked me this question before, Olivia, and I don't have that ability. If I had that kind of ability, I would be flying around in one of those silver spaceships. So no, I can't do that. I'm sorry. It's not able to do that. Sorry, I can't help you. Agent of the Universe, question. Do you believe the aliens messed with your rune reading to obscure their actual intentions? No, but I know that you do. Because why? Because you are prone to fear-based victim mentality, Agent of the Universe. I don't mean that in any negative way. You know that. That is part of your obsessive thinking. No, why would I believe that? I mean, what would be the point? What would be the point in doing rune readings if somebody can do that? So, no, I believe that these beings are subject to the same spiritual laws as everything else. The spirit of the law of action and reaction, which people call karma. I mean, that's the reason why. Think about it. They've been here who knows how long, probably long before we, jumped out of the trees and started walking on two legs. They've been here far longer than that, and at the very least, they've been actively involved in interacting with us since the 50s. They could have, whatever they were going to do, they would have done it by now. So part of that is because the reason why they're holding back is because of, they don't want any negative karma coming on them. I mean, they've crashed. We know for a fact that they're mortal. They die. Our military has their bodies stashed away somewhere. So they live in the same universe as we do. That idea that you have, that fantasy you have, that they are able to operate outside of the moral laws of the universe is your fear you're projecting. So obviously I don't believe that. You should know that by now. What is the main thing that I teach? Drop all fear-based beliefs. Drop them. This is why I'm comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. I mean, the thought of these beings, again, to be looked, we think we're the most conscious thing in the universe, and, we have dogs and cats, and, we look down on every single other conscious entity that we come across because, we're superior to them. And now there's beings that, if they wanted to, could look at us the same way we look at monkeys. And if they wanted to do that, they would have done that by now. So obviously, no, I don't believe that. All right. So rest of your question is kind of a repeat of the same thing. So Olivia Rackley question. I do not have any problems doing each element set. So what she's talking about, I need to put that link up there. Let me do that. I took that link down. I don't know why. I think I was making a video on my other channel. Anyway, you can go to maoshan.thunderwizard.com, MAOSHAN.thunderwizard. There it is. You can go here. This is what she's talking about. She has purchased this and she is practicing the 5 element Maoshan. By the way, I've reduced the price by $750. So go check it out. In my experience, the most powerful energy system on the planet. You can see me doing some of it over here. In fact, I have always joked around and called it Vulcan Kung Fu because it feels like it might even be extraterrestrial. I believe it's possible that the masters of the Maoshan actually were taught by perhaps extraterrestrial knowledge. I'm not married to that. I'm okay if that turns out not to be the case, but it feels that way. It's that powerful. So she says, I do not have any problems doing each element set 20 times in a row. That's pretty good. You said not to do most sets repetitively. I don't know that I said that. Why am I not having any problems? So I didn't say that. I don't know what I said, but I definitely didn't say that. How do I know? Because that's exactly how I practiced. Same way I would do, if I was when I was just doing the 5 sets, I don't know if I told you to do that or not, but I would have done that. 20 repetitions of each set. That's a great workout. So I don't know where you heard that I said not to do that. What I have said is avoid just doing one. So if you're going to do one set 20 times, follow it by the next one. So there's 5 elements: wood, metal, fire, water, earth. We're using the cleansing what's the word I'm looking for? The cleansing, we're doing it in a certain order, the cleansing order, and that is wood, metal, fire, water, earth. So wood expands energy, metal condenses it, fire makes it rise, water makes it fall, and then earth brings it together. So if you're going to do 20 sets of wood, do 20 sets of metal followed by 20 sets of fire, 20 sets of water, 20 sets of earth. So I don't know how you got that impression. Maybe I misspoke, but no, I never said that. Or if I did, I didn't mean to. Agent of the universe, honest feeling. I'm feeling scared of the aliens and I'm being skeptical for my own safety. And what have I said about feelings? They're just feelings. And again, agent of the universe, if something was going to happen, trust me, it would have happened a long time ago. They would have got, I mean, we've been shooting at them. If they wanted to do something negative, they would have done it long before now. All right, Holy Energy, welcome to the channel. Again, what you've just done, you don't realize that, but you've just taken a bunch of, like a monkey and thrown your feces at the window. All of those, it's just noise. If you got a question and you can put a question in there, which adds to the discussion, great. I'd ask for you to please not just, dump a bunch of stuff on there because I got to scroll through it. Because I'm trying to help people who have questions. Agent of the universe, question, how come they haven't thought of observing and learning our form of communication? What makes you think they haven't? That would be like an ant saying to us, why have those humans not figured out how to just only communicate with trails of pheromones? Because, think about it. To be honest, I can't speak for them. I don't know. That's my guess. How's that? That's my best guess. Olivia Rackley, honest feeling. I had a dream last spring that aliens were visiting me in spirit travel while disguised as a physical ship. My spirits told me they were not extra dimensional, but from our dimension. All right. So that's not a feeling, that's an experience. Agent of the universe, that's not a question either. Okay. Olivia Rackley, honest feeling. I know that I was not, she says, I know that was not really a feeling, but I want to add that it made me feel oddly calm considering how bizarre it was. Oh, okay. So Holy Energy, if you got a question, do me a favor, pay attention. As you can see above you and below you, what are people doing? They are writing the word question in all caps. Why am I asking you to do that? Because otherwise I won't see it. Because there's so much static, people. So if you do that, then I have a better chance of seeing your question. So you say, got a question. If we came here and landed in a host body system, then that means the planet. Okay, so a question isn't a if then. Whenever you say if then, what you're doing is you're shoving your opinion down somebody's throat. Just fine. I do that when I'm lecturing. I say if this, then that. So that's not a question. Let me read it all. By the way, as you can tell, I don't like it when people shove assumptions down my throat. I don't like it. Got a question. If we came here and landed in a host body system, then that means the planet is not ours in the first place, right? I don't accept any of your assumption at all. We could look at it. I don't know why you feel the need to say that. So I can tell you're new to the channel. Welcome. People who are new to the channel tend to annoy me with questions because they're not really aligned to what we're talking about, or I find them to be superficial, or I find them to be, somebody's really trying to get their opinion across. I invite you to spend some time on my channel and watch it. So in terms of that question, I don't agree with you. You're welcome to that opinion. I don't agree with it. Olivia Rackley, question. And the reason, I'll tell you why. The reason why I don't like it is because it's self-demeaning. And I don't like the way it makes me feel. If we came here and landed in a host body, because you're describing possession. We didn't land in a host body. We are obviously meant to be here. We chose to be here, and we chose our parents, and we had everything to do with the creation of the fetus in the womb. So it wasn't like we just landed and took over somebody else's body. We didn't possess it. Our human body is actually designed to have, if you've been on my channel, you'd have heard me share this, we have three centers. We have the higher self, the middle self, and the lower self. Our soul resides in the middle self. So if the soul doesn't show up, the body doesn't get, there's no life in the body. So it's not like without us, it would just be some animal monkey. It wouldn't work. The heart, the actual physical heart, is directly connected to the soul, which is why, one of the quickest ways to die is have a heart attack, because then the soul leaves. So I don't accept that assumption. I find that to be crude. I find it to be really a demeaning look at your soul and your incarnation process. It sounds violent. It shows me that's kind of how you see I'm willing to bet you believe that we're trapped in an evil matrix, because that's the kind of victim mentality that would, forgive me for saying that kind of a thing. It's a very violent, very negative thing. And I think that this is a really sacred, that's why it annoys me. Because you're talking bad about an incredibly sacred event where a human soul, and again, to be, if you've been on my channel, you've heard me say, to be incarnated is the highest of privileges. There are beings out there, gods and spirits, that look down and wish they could become human. And for every human being that becomes a human, it means that you have achieved major karma, positive karma. Even if this is your first time here, and a lot of people who come here and have horrible lives, this is their first time here. They're stumbling around. They've never done it before. That's okay. They've got a bunch more left. They got a bunch more lives they can come back and experience it. But it's a very sacred, very beautiful, very powerful experience. And it's painful for me to hear people talk about how we live in this prison. And it's so sad, because the potential of what you can accomplish as a human being, incarnated in a physical body that has these 5 organs that work with the 5 elements, that even if you just master working with the 5 elements, your organs will then take these energies and can turn you into a super being. Not to mention learning how to master the 3 selves. Not to mention learning how to master your kundalini. Not to mention learning how to master your life force energy. Not to mention learning how to tap into the lightning power that is normally dormant in my universal energy system. So this idea that you're giving us of, we just sort of dropped out of the sky and we violently took over some body, and then we're living someplace where we don't belong. I mean, it's hard for me to listen to that. So no, I don't agree with that. Let's see. Joshua Benjamin, again, this is a question and answer. Please try and hold off on the kids talking. Hey guys, no talking in class. Holy energy, so you don't have to scream at me entirely in all caps. I just want the first word, feeling or question. You don't have to scream at me with the whole thing. I wasn't trying to say it like it was saying that we chose to land on the 3D when we... Okay, so, all right. Well, that's how it sounded. My apologies if I misinterpreted. Baba Junzo, question. Could we possibly communicate with aliens using the lightning qigong rituals you teach? That's a very good question. So here's a question, and I don't know if I'm bordering on blasphemy here or not, but I would be lying to you if I haven't thought about it, and if I'm not still thinking about it. I've been doing a lot of energy work, different kinds of energy work, my whole life. And I can tell you, every tradition in the world, the ascended masters of that tradition all have a different flavor to them. So when I was training in the Yoruba shamanic drumming, this is a West African shamanic tradition. Have you ever seen, like, in African rituals, you'll see people will fall on the floor and they flop around and they look like they're flopping around like a fish, and then they stand up, and then I don't know if you've ever seen it, but then other helpers will hold them up while they're having an experience, and they will bless you with energy, and they'll cleanse you, and they'll prophesy, from the gods will speak through them, ancestors, things like that. If it's not part of your culture, it can be kind of weird. So I saw some of that happen. Santeria does that as well, which is a Yoruba. Santeria is actually the Yoruba religion that came to Cuba. And I was I was drumming for some of these rituals, and in between songs, I felt this was very calm, very relaxed. This being, somebody was actually channeling, was on the floor because they were being mounted by one of the spirits. That's what they call it. And I felt this very calm, loving energy come around me and ask me, do you want that? We can give you that experience if you want. And I thought about it. And then I thought about, that for my ego, I don't know that I would like to be seen that way. So I said, no, thank you. And the spirit said, okay, no problem, and left. And just went over, I didn't see it, went over to somebody else. The Maoshan, these masters, I don't even know how to explain it. In fact, I don't want to. But they're very different. The Norse gods, working with Thor, working with Odin, these guys are they're fire. They are right in your face, and they're big, and they are dramatic. And so each one of the masters of each tradition is very different. And as I said, when it feels to me, let me explain why. I'm kind of making a joke about it, and I'm feeling like I shouldn't joke about it at the moment. But the Maoshan masters, they're, how can I say it? They feel very serious, but not in a negative way. They're just serious. And they're direct, and they won't argue with you. Thor, Odin, they'll argue with you. Like if you are messing up. In fact, this happened to me once. I said something slightly. I was joking around, but out of my personal discomfort, I made a joke about Thor, and he immediately said, "Don't ever talk about your family like that, ever." It was fire, and it was love, it was family, it was your family member grabbing you before you run into the street, saying, "Don't run into the street, you'll get run over." And so my experience with the African gods is extremely jovial and loving, gentle. My experience with the Norse gods are very intense, but also the fire of the heart, very loving, but very intense. The Maoshan are very mysterious, but the technology and the power that they give in these practices is, it doesn't ask for your approval. When you do the practices, what's going to happen is that just like here, your negativity is going to get stripped away from you. And you'll have to deal with all of your negative feelings. And so I wonder if maybe this is coming from some extraterrestrial consciousness or not. I don't know. Maybe the Maoshan practices and it's again using the heart center energy. Maybe this is how they are helping us to evolve. Maybe in another few hundred or few thousand years after doing these practices for a while, maybe we will evolve to the level where we will, like Dr. Manhattan, be able to be in their presence and not have it mess with us. Maybe we'll have our energy will have risen to a level where we can deal with it. I don't know. I'm okay if that's not the case, but it sometimes feels that way. All right, so Joshua Benjamin, YouTube blocked your comment for some reason, but I don't know why. But in any case, again, this isn't a. Let's keep it in the question and answer phase. That's what I'd like to do that. Let's see what else. A bunch of other stuff came through here. So you're asking, Baba Junzo is asking, could we communicate with aliens using the lightning qigong rituals you teach? I have taught a meditation in the celestial qigong. If you guys want to get this meditation, the first version of it, which I think is appropriate here, you can go to celestialqigong.com. And I have on there a meditation called the Pyramid Meditation. We talked about pyramids last time and why that had such a strong connection to alien technology. And I personally am starting to craft to do exactly what you're asking. I'm using the Pyramid Meditation in connection with the lightning center of the heart in an attempt to make that connection. I'll let you know the results of that. But I believe that is if I'm right, and the Great Pyramid was in fact an energy generator that was of alien design, which I believe that to be the case, then I believe that this meditation and the pyramid mudra, which I teach in Celestial Qigong, I believe that would logically be a good method of starting that. So you guys are all welcome to experiment with that mudra and that meditation and see what you get from it. But to answer your question, yes, that is my feeling as well, that perhaps our spiritual technology here, the Maoshan, might actually be a way to communicate directly with our extraterrestrial family. Let's see, what else? All right, Joshua Benjamin, here's the deal. This is my channel. I've invited you into my house, and this is what I do. In my channel, in my house, I give teachings and lectures. It's not free for all. And now you have abused me. YouTube blocked your comment because you said some abusive things. So here's the deal. I don't put up with abuse from anybody. So I'm going to block you from commenting. You're more than welcome to watch the channel, but all you have to do is just say one abusive thing to me. You can disagree with me all you want. You can dislike what I say, but when you start doing that, you start calling me names, we're done. So let's all say goodbye to Joshua Benjamin. He does not get to interact with me directly anymore. Let's say goodbye. Bye. I do that to teach you guys to do the same. Don't let anybody abuse you. Don't let anybody bad talk you. If somebody has a problem, this is why I ask people to share honest feelings. He could have said, when you said that, it made me feel this way, because that's what was going on. He got his feelings hurt because there was something I said he didn't like. And you didn't see it because YouTube blocked it because he used some offensive words, but don't put up with that from anybody. Don't let anybody talk down to you, especially when you invite them in your house. And this guy's in my house. I let him walk into my house and sit down, and he's going to be disrespectful and abusive, so he doesn't get to stay. Agent of the Universe, question. I want to ask the aliens to help heal my disorder. Do you believe I should do this? Asking for advice here. I think I've made it pretty clear. I don't really know a whole hell of a lot about them. I don't know that it would hurt, but I don't know that they're going to say anything. Actually, I'm not going to speak for them. So do I think you should? I think if you want to, go right ahead and let us know what happens. Let's see. Thunderous Dave's Rangel, question. How is a spirit mounting someone different than possession? Very simple. Possession is a violent thing that is done without somebody's permission. How's that? And I can tell you from personal experience. I'll tell you this. You see the guys, they're flopping around like fish on the ground, but I can tell you that if they wanted it to stop, it would stop immediately. That was the experience that I had. That if I had relaxed into it, and what's happening when you see people do that, it's the nervous system. The nervous system is taking over and it's releasing blocks and toxins and all kinds of things. And there are spiritual masters that have the ability. They can do that to a whole room. They can have it so that your energy body takes over. And this is what happens when your energy body takes over. It's just like when you're asleep. Sometimes when you sleep and you jerk, your nervous system is resetting itself. So the difference is that there was no forced anything, and I would have allowed it to happen, but I know I could have stopped it at any point in time. In fact, there's a practice. Okay, I guess I'm not allowed to talk about that yet. I'll talk about that another time. So I hope that answers your question. Holy energy, this is an interesting response. Look, if you're still here, I don't know if you are, you may have left, but look, you came in here, this is a brand new classroom for you. I'm telling you how this classroom works. There's obviously something we're talking about that you want. I have shared with you my response to what you said. And so if you're really here to learn, the thing to do is to listen. Do you look at my face? Do you see any anger? Do you see me upset? I'm not. I'm not criticizing you. And this is, again, a lot of people don't know how to work with an actual teacher. But if you think I'm harsh, go try and work with some of these, traditional yogis or these traditional Chinese masters. Just please try and go and just be, just flippant and see how long they put up with it. So I'm actually trying to help you. And if you had listened to what I said, I think it's something that could be helpful to you. He says, if I said anything bad, brother, I guess I'm just going to go. Well, if you want to take your ball and go home, go home. If you have a strong desire to learn and you think I have something to teach you, then you're going to be willing to be corrected by the teacher because I'm trying to help you. And if you can't tolerate that, if that's uncomfortable for you, then I agree. This is the wrong place for you to be. I'm not everybody's teacher. But at no point do I think anything negative. In fact, everything I do, I'm constantly thinking about how I can best serve you, how I can best teach you. And sometimes that means telling you the bitter medicine. You don't have to like it. But that's okay. I care about you so much, I don't care whether you like me or not. That's called unconditional love. I care about you so much, I don't care if you like me. I'm interested in being the best servant I can, which is to tell you the truth. That's okay. If you're new to the channel, you don't realize that, you're welcome to come back. You haven't been disrespectful, so I haven't blocked you. But if you want to block yourself and run away, go right ahead. Let's see what else. Olivia Rackley. Sorry, I meant question. Are you ever going to put the full spirit fighting online? If not, and if you cannot teach it through spirit travel, how am I going to learn it? You've asked me a bunch of questions. I don't know what to tell you. Olivia, you're making a decision to go live somewhere where you won't have access to internet. That's your choice. And now you're trying to get me to take responsibility for that. How am I going to teach you if you're somewhere where you can't get to the worldwide? I don't know how to answer that. So obviously I can't teach it to you, and obviously you can't learn it if you're going to choose to be, and I got nothing against your choice. I think that's a great choice. But if you're going to be somewhere where you can't have access to streaming videos, then I don't know how to teach you. And I can't help it that I'm sorry I'm not evolved to the point where I can't just simply beam it to you. I can't do that yet. Sorry. Don't know what to tell you. So how are you going to learn it? I don't have an answer for you. DC Pagan question, what is the difference between aliens and the elves? I don't have an answer to that question either. I guess, yeah, well, let's just say that perhaps we don't know. Let's just accept the possibility that perhaps the aliens are the elves. Something about that doesn't feel 100% right to me. But at the very least, the elves have given them the thumbs up in terms of power. At the very least, the elves are saying, these guys have power. Again, not having a firm opinion about it yet, I see the elves as spiritual beings, primarily interdimensional spiritual beings. So if there were a difference, we know that aliens are physical entities, as powerful as they are. And apparently there's all different kinds, different races that have different powers, and some of them have the ability to astral project and manifest their three-dimensional holographic bodies. Some of them, while in their physical bodies, can do things like walk through walls and things like that. But they are physical beings. If what we hear is true, they can die, and they can, if they crash their vehicle, their bodies will be there. So they have physical, limited bodies, even though they got far more powers than we do. They're still physical. So if the elves are truly spiritual beings, then that would be a difference. But to answer your question, I don't have an answer to that, because maybe they are the elves. I don't know. The Norse people, the pre-Christian Norse people, it was right around Christmas, actually, but they had a time that they called the elf ritual, the Alpha Blot. And that was so sacred that if you were a non-Christian, meaning that you didn't believe in the elves, they would chase you off their land with a pitchfork. Like the owners of the land would chase you off with guns and say, get the hell out of here. The elves are coming tonight and you can't be here because you don't believe in them. So, people who have, this could be the same kind of thing. Apparently, aliens won't show up if you have any hostile intent, or if you have any negative beliefs, or, if you're not in the right headspace to welcome, they won't show up. So it could have been that. They were driving off the Christians because the Christians badmouth all of the, they badmouthed all of the traditional indigenous religious practices of our ancestors. So that's in alignment. Maybe. I don't know. I'm open to either question. Holy Energy says, honest feeling. I'm sorry, brother. Thanks for the energy. I started off with too much. I came in to listen. Sorry, it's my fault. Great. Okay. We can wipe the slate clean. Thunder Staves Rangel question, why do they practice the spirit mounting? Why? Well, each tradition has its own focus. So the energy is meant to do specific things. So if we go to the Hopi prophecy, which this makes perfect sense to me. According to the Hopis, human beings were one tribe made up of 4 clans. They use the 4 elements: the water, earth, air, and fire clans. And the Great Spirit, whatever that means, sent them off into 4 different directions to master the elements. And so that means each one of those traditions is going to have the vibe of that element. So the East Asian tradition has air, and the masters of the Taoist traditions are like that. They're very reserved, and they just like wind. They come and they go. They don't get upset. They don't, they don't scold. If you've got a bad vibe, they just leave. They don't say anything. They just disappear, and you're on your own. If you have a very humble vibe, they will show up. They won't make it a big announcement. But when you're doing the Mao Shan and they will show up. When you do the Sifu hands, they show up. That's like the bat signal for them. They show up. You might not see them, you might not feel them, but you'll notice as you're doing the practice that maybe your energy feels different, or you'll feel a rush of energy in your body, or you'll feel your posture slightly shift as though somebody's just very slightly altering your posture. You might see or feel something. That's the Mao Shan masters, and that's very much like air. The African traditions, they're water. So they're the water clan. And we know that because water seeps into everything. You cannot keep water out. So even during the time when there was racial division, there was one thing that went through all cultures, and that was music. And that was, the music that we play, except unless you're listening to folk music or country western, every single song you listen to is derived from African drum rhythms, all of them. And if you train in the Yoruba rhythms, you'll be able to tell. But all of the beats, a lot of the music, it's African, whether it sounds like it or not. Even punk rock, it's African music. So that's water. It seeps into everything. So for them to have that experience where, like water, you allow that energy to flow through you, because that's what's happening. That's the way I would describe it. So why would they do that? Because that empowers them with that element and with that, And if you listen to the way the Yoruba speak, the Yoruba are the largest ethnic group in Africa, as I understand it. And the majority of people who came to the West are of Yoruba descent. But the way that they speak, it's not just the pronunciation of the words like in English. It's also where you put the emphasis. So you could have one word, and if you put the emphasis on one syllable, even though it's exactly the same word, you've completely changed the language. And it sounds like bubbling water. And that's a horrible mimicking of it, but it sounds that way to me. And in fact, they have a drum called a talking drum, which it does that. And it's called a talking drum because they would play it and you could send messages across long distances. But it makes that sound. It goes whoop, 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 whoop. That's water bubbling. So at least that's my experience of it. And so that's why I was so intrigued when I saw the Hopi prophecy about the origin of the 4 races. What else? So why do they practice the spirit mounting? Is it healing or just to have an experience? It definitely felt healing to me, and the people that I've seen do it, when they go into that trance and they're standing there and people are holding them up, and what you do is you walk up to them and they would put their hands in front of you and maybe say something to you. The gods are speaking through them. I got the feeling that it was very cleansing for them, especially whoever is being mounted. But it's a healing experience, definitely. It's a real privilege to have that experience. So what else? Nothing else? Okay, that's it. I don't see anything else going on here. No other questions. So, hope you enjoyed that reading. If you want to get more rune readings, you can go to runereadings.thunderwizard.com. If you want to learn how to do that kind of a reading, you can go to my website, which is I've got listed at the top of the chat, which is michaelwilliamdenny.com, and you'll find all of my books, or you can just look for those at courses.thunderwizard.com. Again, these links are here for a reason. Make use of them. But I teach you exactly how I did that reading and how I interpreted it, and I can teach you how to do that. You can learn that from the books or any of the other video rune courses that I have, and including, if you go to thunderwizard.com, even if you subscribe at the lowest level, you'll get access to all kinds of rune teachings. Let's see. One last question showed up. Guy Holmes says, question, could they have the same gods, and Odin would be a universal expression, and the 9 worlds universal dimensions with many earths, many dwarves, worlds, and so on? It's a good question. I don't know. I do not know the answer to that question. It makes the universe a lot bigger and more varied. As an astrologer, we human beings are very influenced by the planets. And so the gods have an association with the planets. And in Vedic, the East Indian tradition, any one of those Hindu gods are associated with a specific planet. So if you're living in a different solar system, in a different part of the galaxy, I don't think they have the exact same planets. Again, this might be why, they're so different from us. They might be so very different from us because the actual energy. I mean, you think about the Earth. The Earth is a deity in and of itself, and she has her own energy, and we are her child. So we're going to be like her. They're going to be the children of their planets and their stars, and the planets that are surrounding them. I can only assume that maybe they have their own form of astrology. I don't know. So to say, are they going to have the same gods as us? Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know. This is what changes everything. It's a good thing I'm not a Christian, because Christians believe that there's only one, we are made in God's image. And if you're a real good Christian, you'll be a flat earther. And so the thought of there being other, solar systems and with other beings on it, they can't talk. They're so frightened they can't tolerate that. So I won't lie to you. That changes things around, and so it makes me wonder. Could we even survive? Like, if a human being were to get in one of their ships, could we survive? Even assuming that they breathe oxygen. Let's just assume that they breathe oxygen. Could we survive the energies that are coming off of their home planet? Could we survive the energies coming from their stars and their planets? These are the kinds of questions that come to my mind, and it makes big universe. So I don't know the answer to that question, but it's great to meditate on. And I like the idea of diversity. We live in a bigger universe than we could have imagined. Because you think about it. I mean, if you grew up in the same educational system as me, no matter what anybody says, you kind of believe that there's that every other planet out there is just some rock, or it's filled with sulfur, or some toxic gas, because most of them are. Right? I mean, all the planets that we have access to, we wouldn't survive on. We would die for any number of reasons. The gravity isn't right. There's no oxygen. There's no atmosphere. There's burning sulfur falling out of the sky. There's lakes of methane. I mean, there's just so many reasons why we wouldn't survive there. It's 150 billion degrees below zero, or it's 750 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a very, very, life for us has to be in a very specific setup, which is why our atmosphere and our planet really needs to be taken care of. Because we get rid of this, there's no other place that we know of in our neighborhood. We couldn't move someplace else. It makes me wonder what's going on with their planet. What's it like for them? Maybe that's why they don't land. I mean, if they got out of their ship, would it be damaging to them? Is there too much gravity here? Is there not enough? You know, all of these questions. Very interesting questions. And now you're asking spiritual, what are their gods like? The 9 worlds. I honestly can't answer that. I don't know. But maybe someday we'll get to ask them and they can tell us. Okay, no other questions? That's it for me then. I wish you guys all the best. Check out all the links. And again, $750 off the Maushan. And if you're going to sign up for the Warrior 90-Day Challenge and you're going to practice, I'm pretty sure I have the pyramid mudra and meditation on there. I think I have it on there. But I definitely have other of the Maushan stuff that will call in these ascended masters to help you learn this energy. If you want to get started with that, you can wait until the first. You can sign up now, but they're going to charge you again at the first of the month. So you might as well wait a day or however long it's going to be. What is 2 days from now? Wait a couple of days and then sign up. And yeah, I look forward to uploading more information on the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong as it comes to me. That's it for me, guys. I wish you guys all the best. Take care. Be good to yourselves. And I will see you all next time.